Oh, man, it was rough for Donald Trump today, folks. A jury was determining damages with regards to the case of E. Jean Carroll. Now, y'all might remember, Trump actually was found liable for sexually assaulting her a few months ago, okay? Judge ordered him to put up a $5 million bond. Well, Donald Trump, he kept trashing her. He kept saying she was lying. So she said, okay, let's bring your ass back to court. Well, today, the jury went off, okay? They hit him up for $18.3 million. And then, first of all, we're going to break down the deal. So it's a total of $83 million. You throw in the previous $5 million, the total judgment against him is $88 million. Okay, y'all know how big this is? When they had closing arguments, Trump was so arrogant, he storms out of the court in the middle of the prosecution asking questions. The judge didn't take too kindly, constantly chastised his own attorney. It was unbelievably crazy. And so, again, this jury decided $7.3 million in compensatory damages, $11 million to repair her reputation, $65 million in punitive damages. Matt, you know it was going to be big when the jury sent a note out saying, "How big can we go?"
Yeah, I smile because notes are one of the most difficult things as a lawyer. If you try cases, you never know what a jury is going to say, and when they send out a note, lawyers essentially take bets on what that means in the grand scheme of things. But I'm really glad you broke this down, because for the viewers out there who don't know what those damages mean, the $11 million and the $7.3 million are compensatory damages, right, to essentially pay back. But that $65 million is punitives, which means that the jury found that Mr. Trump was acting maliciously when he defamed Ms. Carroll. And what is incredibly strange to me about this whole case is that we're really not having the conversation we should have, which is that he was found liable for sexually assaulting her. So we're talking about basically the civil prosecution of a crime, a heinous crime at that. But because of the environment that Mr. Trump and his cronies have fomented in this country, a person who was found essentially guilty but liable in the civil context of rape is still gallivanting around the country defaming his victim to the tune now of $88 million in the two damages, or sets of damages. So I think this is good that a jury looked at the evidence and determined that he wasn't going to be Teflon Don in this situation. But it's still problematic because so many people around the country are buying what he's selling, despite 12 people sitting in the box saying they've looked at evidence and rendering a decision in 2 hours and 45 minutes, which in the grand scheme of jury trials is very quick. That means they went back, they elected a 4-person, they looked at it and said, yeah, he's dead to rights. How much do we want to give her? And I think that's, proof positive of how bad the evidence was for him in this case and how malicious what he did to Ms. Carroll was in terms of defaming her even after the first verdict.
See, here's what's interesting here, Kelly. Donald Trump took the stand in this trial, in this particular phase, which actually is nuts. If you ask any real lawyer, and he didn't have any real lawyers, they were a joke too. But when Judge Kaplan introduced him, he said, quote, he inserted his fingers into E. Jean Carroll's vagina. Trump has trashed her deposition, saying, look at her, I would never be interested in her. But that was the intro of the judge of Trump when he went up there. And every single time after the first trial, he kept opening his mouth. He kept trashing her. So her folks like, let's go back to court. Every time he trashes her, they're going to sue him again, and they're going to win again. The statement we're going to show you in a second, he did put out a statement after this. He left her name out of that one, which made a hell of a lot of sense. But again, this is a person who cannot control himself. And every time he brings up E. Jean Carroll and then he says that she lied, she is going to haul his butt back in court. So we see 88 million today. This thing could go even higher.
Well, sure. And it makes me wonder exactly what Donald Trump's net worth is, like how much money he actually has to settle these cases. And I ask that not, like rhetorically, but I am serious about it, because for those who have seen trials like this happen before, where it's, a defamation case or any type of civil case where it's like a high number settlement involved, or a high number damages amount involved, they shut up after that. They stopped doing the dumb thing that they were doing once that number comes down. And it reminds me similar, and I hate to bring her up, but I don't know if you are aware of Tasha K and her lawsuits with Cardi B and now with Kevin Hart. And she doesn't have any money. So she feels like what does she have to lose by keep going? Right. And I feel like Donald Trump's
No. Actually, hold up. I got to correct you there. This is not true that Tasha K does not have any money. Because here's the deal. All right. She's making money on her YouTube channel. She's making money. All right. Now, look at Alex Jones. They slapped him with $1 billion judgment. He's still making money, and he's shifting money around and doing all sorts of things not to pay the judgment. So the reality is, she got money. You can't keep talking every day, and I mean, it costs money to do this whole thing, and so she's making money from YouTube. Okay.
Oh, sure.
So it's there.
Sure.
So she can, and that's what they're going after. And now Kevin Hart is going after her as well. So the bottom line is, folk out there, you keep running your mouth, you're gonna get sued, and you keep getting hit with punitive damages. I had somebody send me a text saying you can't get rid of those in bankruptcy.
Right. My point being is, I'm not saying she has absolutely no money whatsoever. That's not my point. My point is, exactly how much do these people have and to be confident enough to keep talking? Or maybe it really is just the ego that propels them to keep going. I think the latter.
Oh, it's ego. It's all ego. It's all ego.
Yeah,
it's
like
all
I think
ego.
The latter is really the issue, but it makes, for me, for purposes of this conversation, it makes me think. Right? Exactly how much money do these people have? Like, is Trump really a billionaire such that he thinks that he can just keep going and pay these people out? Because he's going to have to pay. I'm not doubting that he has 83 million. What I'm doubting is that he has, X amount billion, right? Because it feels like his campaign is paying for these things. His supporters are paying for these things. I don't know how much money he has. That's my point.
Well, here's the deal. He's got assets, and Michael, he keep running his mouth. He may have to unload them.
Yeah,
and keep in mind, we're still awaiting. We're still awaiting the other New York case that could determine he can't do business again in New York State.
Exactly. And we know State's Attorney General Letitia James is asking for $370 million in damages. OK, so if that's awarded, OK, hypothetically, if that's awarded, plus this 83 million. OK, 83.3 million. So you're talking about over $400 million. Now, in the deposition, a video deposition for this case, Trump said he had assets of $400 million, I think it was, as well. Cash, about cash, $400 million. So he's in a world of trouble. And he's still dealing with 4 criminal trials. And one of those criminal trials most likely is going to happen, not all 4, but one of those criminal trials is going to happen before the November election as well. So we need to be vigilant. E. Jean Carroll deserves this. And yes, today when Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, he didn't mention her name, but That's not going to last. He's going to go back to being stupid Donald. He can't help himself. OK, what we need to do is make sure we put him out of his political misery and make sure he does not become president again November 2024.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, I want him to go crazy. I mean, and she is driving him crazy. Again, Matt, the man can't control his mouth. If he trashes her again on Twitter, on Truth Social, in a rally, her lawyers are going to be like, we're going back to court, baby.
And you know what's interesting about this? People may know this, but when it comes to defamation of a public person or a public figure, you have to have a level of malice in order to be found liable for defaming them. And I think the inverse is actually working against Mr. Trump here, because he has such an enormous platform worldwide that, as the jury's, evidenced in their damages award, that, there's clear malice if you are clearly attacking a person and you have the platform that he had. So it kind of works in the reverse, as would be the case if someone brought a case against him. But yes, her lawyer should take him back to court because it's obviously malicious. And what I think is so important about this case that we haven't really talked about explicitly is so many of our conversations about Mr. Trump are prospective. What's going to happen? How are people perceiving this? All of that. But the beauty of this is 12 people in New York seated in the box looked at evidence and determined he was liable, looked at evidence and determined, the judge, at least in the other case, that he committed the fraud. And I think that becomes important because he can no longer spin it to say this is just a witch hunt. This is Mr. Biden. This is whatever. No, this is the people, especially from a populist like him. Right. These are the people whom I want to represent, who I'm telling you are in my corner, and they're looking at the evidence and rendering decisions that I'm liable and hopefully in a few months here guilty of criminal offenses. And I think that's important because I think that will start to hopefully turn the tide with some people who are still buying what he's selling and recognizing that their fellow Americans are not buying it in the confines of the courtroom.
Well, something is crazy when the judge, Kelly, tells the jurors, my advice to you is don't tell anybody you served on this jury. They actually protected the names of the jurors from the public, from each other. This basically was like a mob case.
That was exactly what
the judge knows. The judge knows that the MAGA idiots will be having death threats against every single one of these jurors.
Yeah, it's sad because your analogy to a mob case, that's exactly what I was thinking when I heard that. And it's sad because you have to go back to the fact that this man is running for president of the United States. Let's just say, hypothetically, you got somebody on that jury who's a Trump fan, who actually wants him to be president. You want to be afraid of your leader to the point where you can't give him, frankly, basic information and trust that it'll be protected just by way of being a presidential candidate, let alone, God forbid, the president of the United States. That blows my mind. Like, we still have to get back to the fact that this man is still trying to run this country terribly again, right? And that the court found it important enough and vital enough to take those measures in a jury trial. Because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, was this judge also getting death threats? And was this the same case where the judge and their law clerk and their staff was already getting the death threats and they didn't want that to happen to the jury? Because that's happened on the Trump case before, too. So the fact that they have experience with this and they didn't want that on the jury because a, God forbid again, potential president of the United States has a legion of losers to basically bully them into oblivion. That's crazy to me. And it's more importantly, it's sad. It's really sad.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this is going to be totally ignored by, almost ignored by Fox News, Michael. But again, I think what this also says is, Trump, you just taking more L's, more L's, more L's, more L's.
Yeah, Fox News may ignore this, but there's going to be a drip, 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 because this is going to go viral on social media. You have people, D.L. Hughley, you have others, Joanne Reed. This stuff is going to go viral on social media. This is going to be covered all this weekend into next week. Now, what's interesting is these black Republicans, especially the black male Republicans, who have just sold their entire soul to their newfound Jesus, Donald Trump, or Satan, however you want to put it, Senator Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, the rest of them. What's going to be interesting is what they say. OK, and I want to hear Elise Stefanik out of New York, Republican out of New York, House of Representatives. I want to hear her comments on this also. But yeah, Fox may not cover this, but the MAGA Trump supporters are not going to be able to run away from this. This is going to continue to follow them. It's going to get worse. This is not going to be a hot boy summer for Donald Trump. Come this summer, this is not going to be a hot boy summer for Donald Trump. It's going to be the worst summer of his life.
Summer.
Hey,
not hot boy summer.
I'm here for him losing more and more and more. And I
Absolutely,
it's the biggest L in November.